These are some fabrics which I've designed. They all have a story.
This was a world in which people were doing clever things with gears and levers and springs. The red two shafts come up.
Yep. Less force on that, yes.
Goodness. What a contraption.
I used to think fabric was a miracle. Looking up close at all the individual threads, each one passing under and over one another, sometimes forming intricate patterns, it was hard to fathom just how it was humanly or even machinely possible to craft, and how this technology, which was developed thousands of years ago, really hasn't changed since prehistory. Nowadays, looms are electric, mechanized, completely automated, printing fabrics at speeds unthinkable to the pre-industrial craftsperson. But in the days before electricity, before the mechanized loom, people wove by hand, thread by thread by thread, each individually placed by human fingers. I wanted to experience for myself how this was done. So I headed up to Yorkshire, once the wool weaving capital of Britain, to visit the Colne Valley Weaving Museum, a very small, hands-on museum which feels very much like stepping back in time to an early 19th century pre-industrial weaver's cottage.
I'm Grace, and I work at the Colne Valley Museum in the weaving department. This is the weaving room. We have 2 looms, and we're weaving as weaving would have been done in the 1840s. One of the interesting things about looms is that it's a really slow pace of technology. There's nothing different about one of these looms to one of the powered looms that came right after it, except that they just put a belt on it and made all of the things happen automatically with water power or steam power. The fundamental thing that needs to happen for weaving is that you've got this warp here, and you need to separate the warp threads so some of them are up and some of them are down so that you can throw the shuttle through. So you're going to step on the thing, and that's going to form the shed.
Okay.
So a knife is being raised and it's lifting 2 of the shafts and not the other 2. And so you end up with a gap between them, which is called a shed. And that's universal. All weaving machines do that in some way. And that changes every time you do it. And you'll notice that when I'm going down, I can go down quite gently. But when I'm coming up, I come up with intention. And sometimes if you don't come up with enough intention, it won't do the thing it's going to do. This is called the beater in other parts of the world. But in Yorkshire, it's called the going part. Because it goes.
Because it goes.
So you've got the shuttle on the right. That is just, rather than holding a shuttle in my hand and throwing it through and catching it with my hand, I'm just able to. Got this handle and it's got a lever and a spring, and I just use that picker to throw it across and throw it back. And you keep doing that and you end up with this kind of webbing of interlaced threads that is weaving. And so any mechanism that does that is a loom at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Before we can get started with the weaving, we're first going to need a design plan.
I like, how do you even visualize what?
Well, Stephen's got rules about the warp always wants to be the lighter color and the weft the darker color.
Okay.
So you can kind of get an idea from this
Yeah.
what that relationship is going to be. I tend to just like the really plain ones,
Yeah.
but this is Stephen all over,
Yeah.
just like put a bit of this and a bit of that in it.
My name is Stephen Hurst. I'm 81. I've been designing in the industry for most of my life. So these are some fabrics which I've designed. Many of them are standards, but they all have a story. There's all ways of dressing these things up, and that's what a designer's job is, to add value to what you're selling. I mean, anybody can make that, but if you make this, you might get another £5 a metre. That's why designers employed. If you can make fancy designs, you might make more money. And if you don't make money, you get the push. So let's look at this one now. This was an oatmeal warp here.
Cool.
Well, it wasn't cool because we started weaving it and it was boring. I mean, who wants to wear just the cool oatmeal? And so these are the 3 ways that we decided to dress up this warp. So we got that design, and then this design, and this design. You know, this is how to get somebody to buy the best cloth in the world, and it's got to have the best designs.
Do you have a favorite pattern to design and
Yes,
to weave?
my favourite pattern is the one that makes most money.
Makes sense.
We've got some booklets in here. These are the sort of books that designers would have had in the 1930s. And he would see a design and think, oh, that's marvellous, I want to know how to make it. And so you spend an hour dissecting it, and then you find out this is the way it's made. So you stick it in a book. They've all got different names. Look at these, look, that's a men's jacketing. And these are a designer's delight. I can see it there. I mean, look how complicated the designs are here.
That's incredible.
That's a cavalry twill.
Oh, wow.
This is from the turn of the century, last century. And it's a German book with all the interlacings. And it just goes on and on and on. Somebody's gone to, oh, look at these. I mean, can you imagine spending your life putting these down and then going to the trouble of printing it out as well? I just find that the mind of this man to be utterly fascinating. Yeah. I mean, utterly fascinating.
The way that they're documented is the warp threads are the columns and the weft threads are the rows, and whichever the square is the color of whichever one is on top. So if you've got a warp thread on top, it's that color, and if you've got a weft thread on top, it's the other color. So you could do these patterns with any colors that you wanted and come up with different effects of them. But the thing that you need to know from the pattern is, am I looking at a warp thread or am I looking at a weft thread in that particular place?
And then we attempted to visualize how these diagrams get translated into Loom language.
So if you want to have a look at this loom, we've got a slightly different weave going on. So on the other one, we've got a herringbone, although it's hard to see. This one is just a straight twill. But the warp, it alternates light colors and dark colors in 4 threads each. And what happens if you then alternate the weft in also 4 light, 4 dark, is that you get houndstooth pattern.
So what's in this loom here? This is the warp, and this is the weft. The red is the weft. Mm-hmm. So the first warp thread goes over 2 weft threads and under 2 weft threads, right? So the next warp thread just does the same, but it marches on by 1 step. And if you look, it repeats after 4 threads.
These get lifted at the same time.
Exactly.
And then they get lowered at the same time, which is why you have the 3.
So that one, that one, and that one are in the same shaft.
Yeah.
And so you're lifting 2 shafts, like these 2, and then these 2, and then these 2, and then these 2. And then you repeat that.
Yeah.
And that's how you end up with the twill.
That's how you end up with the twill.
Yeah.
Cool.
So as you can see, I'm alternating light and dark in the ground, and then every 8th light stripe has a yellow stripe down the middle of it. And for that, I'm using my Dropbox. So that's this gizmo. So I've got the lighter color in the top there, that one. And then in the second one, I've got my darker color. And then every now and again, I get up to the 3rd level, and I've got my yellow.
So cool.
So I've just got color cartridges that I just use whichever color cartridge I need to be using.
The flying shuttle is a recent invention by the early 18th century. Previously, as Grace mentioned, the shuttle would have been thrown from one end of the shed to the other by hand, which of course limits the width of the fabric, since getting the shuttle stuck in the shed and then having to fish that out is a huge time sink, meaning that the widths of fabric came out narrower and more yardage was needed to cut a garment. The flying shuttle, with much more force, opens up a world of possibilities for wider fabric width, and thus more cloth per yard.
If I'm really going for it and someone else is winding my bobbins for me and none of my warp threads break and I don't make any mistakes, I think I could probably manage about 1 yard an hour.
Wow.
But I would be dying at the end of the hour. I would need a cup of tea at the end of the hour.
Yeah.
And then it was time to have a go.
So every time I put the foot down, push away, fling it across, pick my foot up, smack it in place. Cool. One more. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Stand there.
Okay. See if I can remember the order of operations.
I can tell you as you go.
Okay.
So foot down.
Put down.
Pick that up. Yeah. Push your going part away.
Yeah.
Right as far as it'll go. Yep. Sorry. It's
Oh,
heavy.
that's heavy.
Yeah. And then fling that. Nice. Good. And let your foot up. Foot up. Foot up. That's
Yep.
it. Yep. And give it a
Good.
little smack. Just a little smack into place. Yep. That's good. And now foot down again.
Okay, foot down.
Have a quick see that you've got the right 2, which you do. The right 2 shafts come up.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it really flew.
Happens to the best of us. So you probably push in a little bit too hard, but just, try a little lighter next time.
Cool.
And when you do that, make sure you've got the right 2 up, which you do. Yeah, push it away. Perfect. Nice. Then you just do that for several hours.
Oh, do you have like one really buff arm?
It's hard on the shoulder. Everybody thinks it's going to be hard on the hip. It's hard on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that. Oh my god, the order of operations.
Yeah, it becomes natural after a while.
Yeah, I bet. It's just muscle memory after
Now I'm gonna just.
Oh, it's thrown away. So this is gonna be a flaw.
That's gonna be a flaw. Yeah.
Oh. Brick missing.
So now you get to learn how to pick it out.
Oh great, the most important part of any craft.
I spent so
Undoing
many
your
hours doing this, yes. And what we typically do is just literally kind of break that off and forget about it and just take out the last one. And you can see, if you look carefully, you can see that it's sort of under too many and over not enough.
Wow, there's so much to pay attention to.
Yeah, and it is kind of mind-boggling at first.
Yeah.
And it's worth, I mean, to be honest, it's worth making a couple of flaws just so that you see what they look like, so that you know what you're looking for.
Do that. Yeah, that's it.
Down you can do what you like, up you have to be like, Foop!
Yes.
Because that's the moment that this thing like gets kind of dogged into capitulation.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you're too gentle with that, it's just like, what do you want? I don't understand.
Okay.
So it's on the upswing.
Force with that and not with this.
Yeah.
Less force on that. Yes.
A little bit less on that.
And a lot of force on that.
A lot of force on the way up,
Okay.
yes. And
not on the way
you can,
down.
if you have the brain space, you can check that you've got only 2 of these up.
Got it. Yeah. Okay.
I wasn't expecting just how physical weaving was going to be, and mental. There's so much to pay attention to constantly, from making sure you're executing the correct order of operations with the physical weaving, to constantly watching the machine to make sure it's responding to each command. It honestly felt kind of similar in a way to working with treadle sewing machines or spinning wheels, or even a bicycle. These sorts of early manual machines rely on a conversation between itself and you, the operator. You have to form a language with it that can only be spoken through the body, learning the nuances of feel and sound that accompany each stage of the process. Except these looms are large and heavy. Each component is effectively a long slab of solid wood that needs to be moved multiple times a minute.
A friend of mine who wanted to make money, making dresses was like, do you think I can do this? And I'm like, yeah, of course you can do this. The question is like, can you let go of your perfectionism enough to just do a hack job for a few years? I think she thought that there was some like magical skill involved in doing it perfectly. And I'm like, no, just spend 40 years in a sweatshop doing nothing else and your seams are going to be absolutely perfect. And that's the answer. If you have people who are really poor and who, in order to eat, have to do the thing 16 hours a day for 50 years, they get the most expert of all the people on the planet. There's so much classism just baked into the way that we approach textiles and everything, like bricklayers. Who aspires to be a bricklayer? And yet, we have no homes if these people aren't skilled and good at their jobs, and if we don't respect them properly and pay them properly, then we have no homes. We really need to rethink how we respect people who spend their lives getting good at a craft.
Yes.
And then stop, beat that in, because we're running out of weft.
Running out of bobbin thread.
Yes, exactly that.
Oh, the ancient curse.
So this is actually, strictly speaking, a pern and not a bobbin. Okay. And the way that you know the difference is because a pern feeds off the end like this, it comes off that way, and a bobbin feeds off this way.
Ah.
Typically rolls on a thing.
Right.
So what we're going to do is just press that down and take that off. This stuff is all spun on the spinning jenny, and that's how we come by that.
Cool.
So Brian has just been spinning.
In order to weave, we first need thousands of feet of yarn. And in the pre-industrial age, this also had to be done by hand. The process of spinning woolen, silk, or flax fibers into yarn is one that has changed very, very little from ancient times, up until 1764 with the explosive invention of the spinning jenny, a revolutionary, although controversial piece of machinery, which could do the work of dozens of spinners at once, incidentally placing lots of people out of work.
Lock down the clothes and spin it 7 times.
Ooh, and then it goes.
And one of which the museum had ready for us to demonstrate when a new pern of yarn was needed.
Wow.
And then I need to get it onto the package. So I need to like unspin a little bit, put the follow guide down like that, and then spin it on.
Wow.
As the cloth is woven, it slowly gets rolled onto a bolt under the loom, which, when complete, can be unrolled and detached to reveal the finished yardage.
Ooh.
This is the visitor's practice loom, so the yardage here is a bit experimental.
Oh my goodness. Ooh, that's gorgeous.
This feels like a magician when they keep pulling out a sleeve.
Off the loom, you go through mending, which is a lady with extremely fine eyesight and a needle, fixing all the things that you did wrong. And then that goes to finishing, and so they wash it and scratch it up and shave it. This guy is a cropper, and his job is to wear these scissors around his waist.
What?
With one
That's huge.
Yeah, with one of the blades resting on this table. So it's a slightly curved blade, and this is a slightly curved table. They've taken these teasels here, or a similar sort of thing, and they've like kind of grabbed all the fluffy bits up to the top, and he's going over with ginormous scissors and just sort of shaving all the fluffy bits off. And that is the very last process that happens before the cloth goes to market, and therefore everyone's workmanship before this guy is riding on him not screwing this up.
No pressure.
And consequently, he was paid 4 times more than a weaver, and it was a 7-year apprenticeship. By and large, it was these people, when this machine, the cropping frame, came in and started to take over their jobs, these were the people that became the Luddites. That was happening all over the world at this time because mechanization was taking over people's jobs. And so Luddism around here was chiefly about croppers.
And then it was time to pick out some yarn of my very own choosing, because Grace has informed me that since they're coming up on the end of their current warp, she can soon set up a new warp for a new fabric, which I will get to come back and weave myself. A true tweed lover's dream come true. I am now off to get started on some rigorous strength training for my left arm in particular in preparation. If you are curious to see how that process goes, stick around and subscribe maybe. That will come up on the channel very soon. And if you happen to be in the Yorkshire area and looking to learn some early 19th century weaving yourself, the Colne Valley Museum are currently seeking new volunteers to come and learn.
We're open every weekend, and we are currently looking for new volunteers to learn how to do this stuff because this knowledge is going to go if we don't keep it going. So we're looking for people to learn these skills and take them forward to the next generation.
There will be more information in the description below if that is something of interest to you. See you anon.
This is unspun.
Right, okay.
That's just...
Yeah. Oh, what is it?
Sorry.
I've done designing all my life, and I've never seen this before. Red, green, yellow and blue.
Yes.
And I wanted to try it and see what it looked like, and I think it looks foul.
There's a Yorkshire-Lancashire divide in terms of oh, nice. Okay, so hook it over one of these and then fish it through that hole and out there.
Okay, wait, you were saying?
Side quest. Marley's learning how to spin.